I'm live. Good evening, everybody. How are you? Uh, just my wife was trying to ask me a question, and she missed the cutoff. I had already gone live, and she's trying to get one question in under the wire, and so here we're at instead. So, how's everybody going this evening? Doing this evening? Let's see who's arriving so far. So let's get something going here, and let's see here. Okay. Anybody here yet? I see 2 people have signed in. Oh, hello, Elishiva. How are you? Good to see you. Hey, Dallas. She should get one question, Bobby. Okay, yeah. Who wants to ask a question? Elishiva? Feel free. We can ask a quick question or 2, and then we can get going. Hello, Dini. Hi, Holly. Cheryl. Oh, my wife should ask one question. Nicole, they said you can ask a question if you want to be on film. I think she said she's okay. She'd rather keep the question off of the recording, but she appreciates it. What is the meaning of life? I can tell you my thoughts on the meaning of life. I'll try to make it real quick. So let me just post this of 365. And then I will gladly tell you what I think the meaning of life is. I'll do a shortened version. Okay. And I've thought about this. Actually, I figured this out. I think I did, at least. Is in my early 20s. And I remember when it kind of hit me. And I'm not exactly sure why it hit me. I thought I figured out what the meaning of life was. And it's not super complicated, folks. We all know what it is. It's literally in front of us our whole life. But then you kind of come to that aha moment, and you're like, wow, that's what the meaning of life is, right? And so, keep in mind, I've paid attention and kind of listened to a lot of different philosophies and read up on philosophies and so forth about other people's meaning of life since this event, I guess, took place in my early 20s. But I remember specifically going up to a woman that I worked with who was married and had, I think, one young child. And I said, I had to tell somebody. And so I think I was maybe like 20, 21 years old. And I said, I think I figured out the meaning of life. And she's like, really? I said, yeah, I think I got it figured out. And I said, it's not complicated. It's super simple. It's just unconditional love, and then receiving that love back in an unconditional manner from another human being. And when you have that sensation, that feeling, and if you can create it, it's life just blossoms in all different directions. And she just said, I think you did get it figured out. So I'm assuming she figured it out too. But I guess that's what creates limitless energy, unlimited energy. That is not limitless. Limitless energy. So it's unlimited. And I do believe that if you can tap into that, of that in a sense, that nirvana, that bliss, so to speak, through pure love, you can create there's an infinite possibility of things that you can create. And so, it just so happens, I was talking to my son today because, he's right about to turn 17, and he's been chiming in on this, which is pretty cool. Hi, Ronan. I'm glad that you're coming in on these things, which, how many 16-year-olds want to kind of come in and listen to their dad talk about the Bible? So it's pretty cool that he's comfortable doing that and seems to be getting a lot out of it, which is wonderful. We talk about religion quite a bit anyways at the dinner table and stuff like that. So, but he's kind of decided to chime in here too. But the conversation I had with him today is because since he's going to be turning 17 and he's going to be going to college and so forth, Oh, and Holly, I want to go back to this whole thing with love, by the way. So I said, Ronan, you have, let's look at how much time you have in the upcoming year before, as you're 17, about to turn 18, turn into a young man. You already are a young man, but, legal age where you're 18, you could vote and everything else. And so we kind of broke it down. And I said, you're gonna basically go through, you're going to be alive for 525,960 minutes in the next 365.25 days, 525,000 minutes. So then it's like, okay, well, how many hours are you going to sleep, per day? And, you're going to sleep 480 minutes per day. So you're going to sleep 175,000 minutes. So 525 minus 175, you have 350,000 minutes of time, okay, in the next 365 days of your life. And I said, that's a lot. You basically have, 50, you're going to have 5,800 hours of time, or about 118 hours a week. So you almost have, about, I think 112 hours per week. You're going to essentially have like 3 full work weeks of life per week of time that you can do something with. So if you work a third of the time and you do something for enjoyment and love and so forth, like what you love doing, spending time with family and friends for a third of the time, and then you develop yourself for a third of the time. So it's like, okay, you have 40 hours to develop yourself, 40 hours to do work that's going to help you craft the life that you want, and a third to spend doing things that, hold on. Develop yourself, which is education, then work a third, and then 1/3 doing whatever you want, playing video games, taking time to hang out with your friends, whatever. I said, so if you kind of do that, I think that you can construct an incredible life. And I'm more than happy to kind of walk you through how I would construct it if I was 18. So you can take what you like. You're not going to hurt my feelings. At the end of the day, it's got to be a life that you want to live, because you're the one that's going to be living it, not me. But I'm more than happy to kind of put together and show you these frameworks of how you can kind of set yourself on a trajectory to have a tremendous amount of time. And I said, he's going to be 17. I said, Ronan, I've figured out ways that kids that live at home with their parents, if they live at home till 25, they can have a house fully paid off by the time they're 30. I haven't shared it with the world, but I said, if you want to be the guinea pig, I'll figure out how to show you all this stuff. And then you could kind of run with it. Maybe we'll do some videos and books with it or something, and kind of figure out how to, get it out there to the world. So he kind of likes, he likes that idea. He's kind of kicking it around, which is pretty cool. And so, I had an idea before, and I never wrote it, but I've started a bunch of books, folks. I'll be the first to admit it. But I didn't have, it didn't feel like it was right to publish them. And maybe I couldn't publish them because I had no audience. Maybe God's like, Bobby, that's a great idea for a book, but, you just got to pump the brakes a little bit. Just wait. Maybe you can publish it later when people actually want to hear what the hell you have to say. And so, so I'm kind of at the point where it's like, wow, I may turn around and write some of these things out and do some books. And part of my ideas for these books was micro books. So what I mean by a micro book is like 13 to 33 pages. I happen to love the number 13 and 33, as everybody knows. No, it has nothing to do with the Masons. I love the number 333, 3313. And so I see it everywhere in the world when I look at things. And so how it showed up there, I don't know, but I don't really care. I just know that I can see it in patterns. And so 13-page books, maybe like there's a 10 to 13-part series of 13-page books, which is 169 pages of material, and I would kind of trim it down. The Constitution with all of its amendments is between 31 and 33 pages, depending on the font size. That's not a coincidence, I don't think. That's why I don't think any law should be over 33 pages. everybody should be able to read it in one sitting. But, so I was like thinking about ways to kind of take complex things and slim it down to the core principles to 13 pages, 33 pages, and maybe sell it for like $2.99 a book or something, and just see what the heck happens. So anyways, I'll see if, I got other things I got to tend to first, folks. But hopefully I'll get there and get this done, and maybe Ronan will help lead the charge. That would be good for him. It would be a fun experience to kind of teach him this stuff in real time and kind of write it all out. Maybe have him write it out for me. He can sit there and just kind of write my thoughts and so forth. So it'd be kind of cool, because then he can take those books and he can give them to his sister and his all three of his sisters, and then his new younger brother who's about to enter the world. So it'd be kind of cool. It'd be a cool bonding experience for me as well. So I hope. I know it'll be for me. I hope it's one for him. So maybe he'll be like, I'm tired of being around you, Dad. Let me go do something else. So anyways, Exodus 29. And I'm sorry I got off on a little detour there, folks. You never know what you're going to get. It's like that movie Forrest Gump. Life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Well, it's like, when we're going over the Bible and Bobby's talking, you never know what the heck is going to show up and what I'm going to talk about in this stuff. But anyways, I thought it was interesting with regards to Exodus 29 with the dedication of the priest and all the ceremony. And once again, as I'm kind of going over this, and, obviously we're going over the Old Testament and the New Testament, each week or each day, and they kind of, splice it all together and so forth. And I think it's pretty fascinating, the level of detail in process to to order. And we've talked about this, we've kind of hit on this with regards to the difference between Jewish traditions and then Christian traditions. Jewish traditions are very exacting, very precise. At least my perception. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but they're very. I don't know what to tell you. It's like it's engineered. It's like God was like, "Hey guys, I'm going to show you a solution. It's extremely mathematically based and process based, and I want it exactly done the way I want it done. That's the way it's got to be." And you're going to have to toe the line. You're going to have to live within these lanes, and that's just the way it is. And it's a very fascinating structure. And if you think about life, people that do really well, exceptionally well, have tremendous discipline. So discipline, it's kind of interesting. So the whole concept, when I'm kind of reading this, and I'm just reading this story about the dedication of the priest, but I'm thinking what's going through my mind is just the commitment to detail and the dedication to doing what the game plan is, and not making any excuses. And all these little nuances are just kind of like really just hammered out and written out in incredible detail. Now you take the other ram and have Aaron and his sons, lay their hands on its head and then slaughter it and apply the blood to the bright earlobes of Aaron and his sons. It's like, wait a second. I don't want you to just kill this ram. I want you to kill it, and then you got to take the blood, and then you got to put it right on this ear over here, and then you got to put it on his sons. And I'm just, I don't know. I have conversations in my head when I read this, folks, and so and I think that's why I try to keep it interesting and for myself, because since I read a lot, sometimes there's been times when I don't talk to a whole lot of people on any given day. That's kind of changed recently, so maybe that's why I talk so much. But I would literally just kind of read and talk to myself out loud. And, I'd be, reading something else, and I'd crack jokes, and nobody's in the room to hear the joke, but I would, it's kind of like the tree falling down in the forest. If nobody's there, does anybody hear? Well, when I would crack a joke, as long as I'm the one person hearing it, the joke did exist. So that's why my wife gets a kick out of my joke. She's like, you start laughing at your jokes before you even finish the joke. And I said, I already know what the joke is though. I'm my own audience. So anyways, this is one of the reasons why. But looking over this excruciating attention to detail, take the ram and used in ordination, and then boil its meat in a sacred place. Then they have to eat it, and then whatever they don't finish eating, they have to burn it, and so forth, because it's holy. And then, you kind of go through the whole thing. I hope everybody's taking the time to read these or listen to them. It's great to listen to them. So I'm kind of doing a quick overview of what my thoughts are with regards to discipline, because all of us know when we look around the world, and people that excel in any profession, whether it be in business, in sports, and entertainment, singers, artists, musicians, anything, any discipline needs any. That's funny that the word discipline, right? If you follow a discipline or a career path, is often referred to as, what is your discipline? Because you need to have tremendous discipline. And it's, the two words are interchanged. And it's like, that's one of those beautiful things about the word. It's like discipline means order, but a discipline also means exceptionalism in a particular craft. And so, it shouldn't come as a surprise in the world that we live in that people that are disciplined succeed and do well. And if you look at the data, folks, there's a reason why, as a percentage of the people in this country, and probably this is a global phenomenon, it's just not U.S., that are extremely successful in business and in various fields, whether it be law, sciences, and so forth, education. Jews do exceptionally well. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it's because of their discipline and in following God's law. So God basically told us all, here's the rule book, guys. You got to follow me. You follow my rules. If you live your life following my rules, you will be rewarded. So, a lot of people get mad at God, and then sometimes people get mad at Jewish people. I deal with it occasionally, and it's like I block them out. And when they, some of the social media stuff, it's like, you're attacking Jewish people, but then you're saying that, Jesus is who you're following. And I'm like, you guys do know that Jesus was a Jew, right? Like, he had a different version of where things were going to kind of go. And so you took this discipline approach to more of a variable approach, but it's the same core concepts, and it's the same Father, right? So the Jews don't think Jesus is the Son of God like Christians, but in terms of, he's Jewish. And so obviously, reconcile that for a second. You're like, wait a second. So Jesus is Jewish. We study the Old Testament. The Jews have the Torah. They also, the Old Testament's in the Torah. I'm pretty sure that's accurate. And so now you got, I think it's in the Torah. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is. So you got the Old Testament. Jesus is Jewish, and you got the New Testament. And then the Jews are like, look, man, Jesus was just a Jew, like all of us. But Jesus is a Jew telling the Christians that, to saying, look, guys, I'm the first son of, I'm truly the Son of God, the first Son of God in human form. But by the way, you guys, we're all children of God. So it's an interesting thing, right? Because it's like, if you're Jewish, you're like, man, this Jesus is really making our life a little difficult. He's basically saying he's Jewish and he's the Son of God. But then he's telling all the Christians that we're all children of God. But then we're like, wait a second, do we deserve to be children of God? The way Jesus is saying that we're all children of God. And, it's a bit of a conundrum, right? It's like, well, no, do we deserve to be children of God, right? Or are we supposed to serve? Because the Old Testament is about serving God. And then, and it's kind of like, wait a second, you serve God by following exactly what God says, and then you will be rewarded. But then in Christianity, you serve God by free will and doing what you should do by living a righteous life. So it's kind of like, it's the whole thing is pretty funny to me, frankly, because it's like these two major religions, right? But then, the Jews are like, we're not going to go out and evangelize. if you want to be Jewish, you got to come and find it. But then Christians are like, we're going to go try to get everybody on board. so you have these dualities, right? You got one extreme to the other, and so this is why I think the West has prospered so much, and this is why I often say Judeo-Christian West. I say it all the time. I've said it for decades, and I've always believed that those core principles. Even though I didn't take the time to really explain it to anybody, this is just kind of what came to me and what I thought was how it was all set up. I've since kind of read into it a little more detail and so forth, but those two yin, it's our version of yin and yang, right? And I don't really like to reference China unless it's pre-communist China. I don't, the Chinese before communism. We're a much better people than under communism. And don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with Chinese people. I'm talking about the ones that are communists. I do have a problem with because they are atheists and they truly are evil people. The ones that are communists, but that goes for not just Chinese people. That goes for any people that try to steal our rights, try to suppress our religion, try to suppress our freedom, try to silence us. Try to slaughter babies, and think it's okay, and try to silence anybody who speaks up against it, and tries to ostracize everybody who speaks up against it. My attitude is, I just don't care about what they have to say. If I don't respect these folks that are evil, which I don't, I'll listen, and I'll kind of be like, yeah, thank you for the advice, and then I just plow straight ahead anyways. This woman yesterday with this, I kind of mentioned it yesterday. This woman called me up to ask me about this mayoral race for Geneva, and she's like, Tom didn't give you permission to speak about him with regards to the mayoral race, and you're talking about things that are, those are national issues. Those are not local issues. It doesn't matter for the mayoral race about abortion. And I said, I completely disagree with you. I think our morality begins on an individual level and in our local communities, and it spreads up to a state and national level. And she got very angry. She kept getting louder and yelling, kind of being very angry about it. And I said, look, you don't have to agree with me. You just go vote. I said, I'm telling you what I think. I'm explaining my case to people, why I think this way. And then they can take it or they can leave it. And that's fine. And I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I'm going to just kind of keep trying to come up with better arguments to make my point if people can't see it yet. And then she kind of chimed in and said, well, you need permission from Tom. Why didn't you call him up and say, Tom, I want to say this. What do you think? And I said, I supported President Trump last year, and I got to tell you, I didn't need his permission. If I called him up and tried to get a hold of him and say, President Trump, I really need to speak with you. I want to support you publicly and talk about why you should get elected, but I want to make sure you're okay with the way I say it. I said, are you serious? I said, you're a reporter? That's what I said to her. I go, you make absolutely no sense that you think I need to go talk to somebody. I said, my constituency is my kids. It's my family. So if I have to answer to somebody, I have to answer to my family as to why I'm doing it, why I'm saying it, why I'm taking this stance. But I'm not going to look the other way. And my son happened to be there when I was talking about it this morning. And I said, these babies, some of them are being, obviously killed minutes before birth. But I do think there's an element of some of these babies not being killed because nobody sees the bodies. Right? We don't see all these bodies, and I don't want to see them. So I don't support abortion. I have no interest in ever seeing aborted babies or babies that were slaughtered that were minutes from birth. It would bother me too much. And so, but then there's a side of me that's like, well, since nobody wants to see if they're truly slaughtering these babies, right, in the third trimester, how many of them are being stolen? The mother is told, oh, we killed the baby, and they take it and they sell it off into slavery. or they sell it off into the sex trade, or they sell it off into, to another country. We have no idea. Who the hell's monitoring any of this stuff? It's absolutely insane. We take women, that there's people in our society that can take a baby. Okay, you put your hand on a woman's belly, you can feel the baby kicking around, moving around. It's excited. What is on the other side of this belly? What kind of world is in store for me? I don't know what the heck is going on. I just know I hear stuff. I can feel things. I can feel heat and sensation. And then some sick son of a bitch rips the baby out and kills it. It's kicking, and they sever its spinal cord. And somehow I'm the bad guy for saying this, like speaking what they do. It's like, first of all, I'm not the bad guy. I'm just trying to get it out there so people know what the hell it means, because your language tries to make it sound as though it's disconnected. Oh, partial birth. Yeah, partial birth. The freaking baby is kicking. It's literally ready to go, and you guys kill it as though it's these people are pure evil. They're not human beings, man. I think they're demonically possessed, and people that support this are just as demonically possessed. You got to pray for them, and you got to try to figure out how to get to these women that are feeling this helpless, that they would ever do such a thing, because I do think the devil collects souls. And one of the ways in which they collect souls is they try to get people that are broken souls. Because if you end up slaughtering your baby that way, I mean, that's got to be a very difficult time to go through the rest of your life. I don't know how hard of a time you fell on. And I talked about this with my wife. Some women some women suffer from postpartum depression. I think there's women that suffer from prepartum depression. So when women were at one of their weakest points, some sick liberals, these demoncrats, that's what I call them, they're demons, and they even have the name demon in their name. They convinced this poor woman that's down on her luck, very stressed, maybe her hormones are causing her to be depressed, and thinking that the only way out is to slaughter her baby. And they welcome her with open arms for Satan, is what happens. And it's just disgusting. And so this mayor of this town supports that. He supports Lauren Underwood, Undertaker of the Unborn. And if they're willing to slaughter babies, you mark my word, they're going to come for seniors next. And maybe they'll do it under the guise of a virus that they engineer. Does that sound familiar? So these folks are that evil, and they think these things through decades in advance. And we need to start thinking ahead and looking at what the board looks like and what the hell they're doing, and offset it by educating everybody to be more independent, question everything more, and be more involved in their own lives, their own citizenship, their own religion, and really start becoming, being more American, be more independently minded, and think about what the heck is being said, and not be so threatened when somebody disagrees with you, and just kind of break down the problem and discuss it. So the other, Exodus 30 is about the altar. Same thing. All this attention to detail. Once a year, Aaron must purify the altar by smearing its horns with blood from the offering made to purify the people from their sin. This will be a regular annual event from generation to generation, for this is the Lord's most holy altar. And so what I was thinking about as I'm kind of reading Exodus 30, and then with regards to all the blood and so forth, I couldn't help but think about, Matthew 26. And, this is where, we're going to talk about this in Matthew 26. So I want to kind of talk about how the two of these two readings, Exodus and then Matthew 26, are related. Okay. So then this is on the first day of the festival of unleavened bread. The disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Where do you want us to prepare the Passover meal for you? As you go into the city, you will see a certain man. Tell him, the teacher says, my time has come, and I will eat the Passover meal with my disciples at your house." Okay? So then, kind of highlighting some of this, they kind of do it nice and red to kind of go to the points that we should really kind of talk about, I guess. "I tell you the truth, one of you will betray me," right? So this is the deal that is made with Judas. One of you who has just eaten from the bowl with me will betray me. For the Son of Man must die, as the Scriptures declared long ago. But how terrible it will be for the one who betrays him. It would be far better for the man if he had never been born." So then Judas said, "Will I be the one, Rabbi?" And he said, "You have said it." So that's another thing, folks, for people that are like Jesus, Jesus is Christian. It's like, and they're in this, Jewish denial kind of phase or something. I said, Jesus is referred to as a rabbi. so yes, he was Jewish. He was a teacher, and he was the Son of God. And so you can be in both camps. So it's kind of have one foot in Judaism and one foot in Christianity, which is the new religion that came about, obviously as a result of this whole thing. Okay, so let me see. So then he basically, as they were eating, Jesus took some bread and blessed it. He broke it and said, "Take this and eat it, for this is my body." And so he basically went through that, and then same with the cup of wine. He said, "Each of you drink from this. This is my blood, which confirms the covenant between God and His people. It is poured out for the sacrifice to forgive the sins of many. Mark my words, I will not drink wine again until I drink it with you in my Father's kingdom." So with regards to the blood and with regards to the body, right? So if you think about like passing the baton, and I don't know if Jewish people in Israel or Jewish people anywhere worldwide follow Genesis with the sacrifice of all these animals in terms of in their religious ceremonies. I know that they might follow some of these practices with regards to kosher meat, and I happen to definitely philosophically agree with the idea that you should bless animals before you kill it, and that it should be as calm as possible. And it being calm is not only a sign of respect to that animal, but it also prevents all the adrenaline and all the fear tainting the meat if the animal is scared as it's being killed. This is one of the reasons, folks, if you go hunting, you really want to be sure, and yes, that's right, you lunatic lefties, there's some people that go out there and hunt still. So, they shoot deer with an arrow. Some people shoot deer with a rifle. Yes, human beings do eat animals. We have dominion over the animals on this planet. You sick bastards want to have dominion over us. No, you do not get dominion over us. We all human beings have dominion over animals. So anyways, so there you go. Jews don't have animal sacrifices right now because there is no temple. Okay. See, the temple, is it supposed to be rebuilt? Is that what it is? Elisheva? So, okay. So anyways, from the standpoint of the Jews don't have the sacrifices because there's no temple. And then you have this idea of body and blood of Christ. So I can't help but think that maybe the sacrifice of animals, their blood on the altar, and the body of the animal, being eaten, that instead of having that sacrifice of animals, within within the structure of the church and so forth, or I guess in the temple. And once again, since I'm talking about the transition, folks, Jesus is like, look, we can do this a little better, maybe, in some respects. It's like we could turn around and not do all the sacrifice with animals, but I'm going to be the sacrifice. And this is where Christ is like, it's my body, it's my blood. I will be the sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice for humanity. When I give up my body, my blood, I'm going to sacrifice for everlasting life for all human beings, that we no longer have to do these sacrifices. So the question becomes, Elisheva, the temple will be rebuilt according to prophecy in the Bible. So the question is, when the temple is rebuilt, does that mean the second coming of Christ? I don't know. I've kind of heard some of the stuff in bits and pieces, but in terms of, I guess we're going to find out, right? Because I just don't remember, folks. It's been so long and since I probably saw this part of it. But was the temple destroyed right upon Jesus' death, or right around the same area or time? So was that kind of passing the baton, with regards to Christianity forming and taking off as a result of the temple being destroyed after Christ's death? I mean, I know, I don't remember. I think that there's some kind of relationship there, but I just I have to dig through and find it. I moved to the country, and people buy things like deer bait and other things from a city, but the city girl has no other understanding. But I did get a gun I can shoot in my backyard, but I feel wrong. Well, Celicia, you shouldn't feel wrong. You have a right to defend yourself, as every human being does. So, I do not like beef. I got to tell you, I don't know. I just like to eat in general. So I can go without eating beef or pork or chicken or lamb, and then I could just do vegetarian type of meals. But then I like to go back to that. So Messiah will come at that time. Yes. Oh, the Messiah. So, okay. So you have a different spelling. Okay. Steak. Okay. Christ was the first and final sacrifice. Yep. That's what I've heard. And I do believe that was, that I do believe that's true for me as well. God told us to stop killing all my creations for no good reason, and thinking you're doing some weird penance for me rather than for ourselves. Yeah, I think that's good too. I don't think these animals should have ever been killed just for the sake of, oh, cool. You can read and write in Hebrew. It's not an easy task, folks. I don't know how you can write backwards. I joke around with my wife all the time because she's lefty. I said, I don't know why you insist on writing everything backwards. So, I'm just teasing, but it is interesting how people read from right to left versus left to right. But our brains, I guess, the plasticity of our minds allow us to do anything that is in our environment, which is pretty special about being human, I guess. On the way, Jesus told them, tonight all of you will desert me, for the scriptures say, God will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have been raised from the dead, I will go ahead of you to Galilee and meet you there. Peter declared, I will never desert you. And Jesus replied, I tell you the truth, Peter. This very night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times that you even know me. And that's a pretty, I don't know if anybody has seen the movie The Passion of the Christ. That's a pretty crazy movie, like in terms of when I say crazy, I mean like it's like very visual, and it's pretty tough to watch at first because it's, it can make you somewhat, I think definitely can make you emotional depending on your state of mind and how you're watching that movie. It's pretty powerful movie. I know that, when I kind of read this in the Bible and seeing it in the movie, it's kind of funny when you get that visual, right? When you have a scene from a movie that really captures the moment of Peter denying Jesus 3 times. That still stands out in my mind, and as well as the way Jesus was tortured before he was crucified. And so it's pretty, like I said, it's pretty brutal. Okay, so then Jesus went to them in the olive grove, and he said, sit here while I go to pray. He told them, my soul is crushed with grief to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. He went a little farther and bowed with his face to the ground. My Father, if it is possible, let this cup of suffering be taken away from me. Yet I want your will to be done, not mine. And so then he returned and he found them all asleep. And he said to Peter, couldn't you watch with me even 1 hour? Keep watch and pray so that you will not give in to temptation. For the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. Then Jesus left a second time and prayed, my Father, if this cup cannot be taken away unless I drink it, your will be done. and then he found them sleeping. But they couldn't keep once again, he returned, he found them sleeping, so he went to pray for a third time. Then he came to the disciples and said, "Go ahead and sleep, have your rest. But look, the time has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of the sinners. Up, let's get going. Look, my betrayer is here." So it's like pretty powerful and pretty crazy to know what's going to happen and what's in store and how you're about to be tortured, right? Because obviously Jesus knew what was going to happen. I don't know, Ronan, I didn't make you watch it. Ronan's throwing me under the bus, folks. He's gonna some crazy liberal is gonna say that I abused Ronan by making him watch The Passion of the Christ. But I think it is a powerful movie that everybody should watch, even if they're not Christian, because the reality is before Jesus Christ suffered and died on the cross for us, if you're Christian, and even if you're not Christian, Jesus didn't really pick sides as to who he died for. He died for all of us. So even if you don't feel like, well, he didn't die for me, even though he said he was dying for me. I think it's kind of funny. It's like if somebody says, "I'm going to die for you, Bobby," right before I get killed or something, I'm going to be like, I can't stop him. It's just, so anyways, I know it's just all language and semantics, but some people feel he literally did. He died for each of us. And if Jesus felt that he was dying for all of us, and some people don't believe he was the Son of God, what's the difference? And for you, he still could have died for you with in the sense that even if you didn't believe he was the Son of God, but you did believe he existed, and there's proof that he existed, and he said these things, then whether you like it or not, from a philosophical perspective, he did die for you. If he said that he was dying for all of us, dying for everybody is, I guess it's an infinite type of phrase. And so the fact that he said it, makes it more credible that he really meant it, I guess you can make the argument that maybe he was delusional. But then there's a lot of people that are atheists and lunatic lefties that think we're all delusional. So anybody who believes in God is delusional. So it's a weird situation, because it's like, well, we're all kind of living our delusion with someone who is delusional, thinking that they're the Son of God, and and other religions. So the whole thing is pretty interesting, is all. And so obviously that's going to be pretty powerful stuff that's on the horizon in the next few days, when we're kind of going through that whole process of how he was tortured. But getting back to this whole thing about how he was tortured and why that movie is such a powerful movie is because prior to this, torture was very common. They used to crucify people all the time, and the Romans would literally they would have rows of people that were being tortured and crucified on the cross, and left to die and literally rot and in the open air, and have animals picking away at them. So they were extremely vile and cruel and evil people among the Romans, that literally it must have been like hell on earth to watch people being crucified all around you. It had to be tough to remain and stay a decent human being when you can see such vile evil right among you, among people that you're around, and that you're powerless to stop it. And I think that that's a pretty powerful message, even in today's world. I talked to a decent number of people what's going on in this country with regards to, voting integrity and all that, and the system that we have. And I tell people all the time, I'm the most optimistic I've ever been with regards to the future direction of this country. As aggravating as it's been, the truth being exposed is going to free everybody, whether they like it or not. The truth is going to have its way with us until we're done, until it's done having its way with us. So as the truth comes out, and as Americans across this country, unite, and they get to work, and they take their communities back, and they take their local elections back, and their school boards back, and they start breaking bread together again as families. Maybe that's a good thing that happened in past year when restaurants closed a little bit, because, over half the meals were eaten out of the home, and now more people are eating at home and having meals together as a family. I'm hoping that people are having more conversations. Like I always talked to my parents when I was a kid, and that's one of the things I'm very conscious of having meals with my kids every day. And I know some people don't like the word kids, right? Because it's like, they're not goats, Bobby. It's like, what? My children, but hey, I'm from the South Side. I'm not from the South Side, but I'm from Chicago. But people think I have a South Side accent or something. But anyways, eating meals is a wonderful way to pass down traditions, pass down knowledge, pass down lessons in life. So when kids are eating their meals with their parents or grandparents, or, to explain what's going on in their day, if they learn that discipline and say, look, Mom, look, Dad, this is what happened to me today. What does it mean? When they get comfortable asking difficult questions without fear of being judged, I think that's how you prepare your child for this world. And I think it's extremely important that that time, breaking the ice, so to speak, is kind of like breaking the bread, right? This is very, very important in the Old Testament with Jews in terms of the importance of breaking bread and having meals together. It's a really big deal, folks. And to do such a thing, and we kind of take it for granted. We just a lot of people break bread with anybody without even knowing, and they don't really appreciate the ritual of it. The significance of being willing to eat with somebody else is a sign of trust and so forth, that we kind of we've lost some of that and so forth. And so, so that's that. So let's go to Psalms 31. How great is the goodness you have stored up for those who fear you. You lavish it on those who come to you for protection, blessing them before the watching world. You hide them in the shelter of your presence, safe from those who conspire against them. You shelter them in your presence, far from accusing tongues. Praise the Lord, for he has shown me the wonders of his unfailing love. He kept me safe when my city was under attack. In panic I cried out, I am cut off from the Lord, but you heard my cry for mercy and answered my call for help. Love the Lord, all you godly ones, for the Lord protects those who are loyal to him, but he harshly punishes the arrogant. So be strong and courageous, so you who put your hope in the Lord. All you who put your hope in the Lord. My favorite part of this psalm, and once again, maybe I'm not interpreting these things as well as I should, but I do like it a lot when God punishes people that kind of screw over other human beings, and especially the ones that are arrogant. There's a saying I like to say, and I try to save it for people that really upset me in the world, and they do things that hurt, and they're more damaging than they realize. And one of those sayings is the only thing that exceeds, your arrogance is only exceeded by your ignorance, or is it your ignorance is exceeded by your arrogance? So when I meet some of these individuals that are very righteous and they try to preach exactly how they should do things while living a completely different way, the traditional definition of most Democrats, they want to tell everybody how to live their life, but they want a double standard. Kind of like I think the mayor of New York was riding around with no mask on. He got caught with that. Pelosi going to get her hair done, but then telling everybody to wear masks. That type of nonsense and garbage. But these people are just that arrogant, and there's no consequences. And so I really like it when I kind of read stuff like this. Love the Lord, all you godly ones, for the Lord will protect you, the ones that are loyal to him, but he's going to punish the arrogant. So I think we all are embedded with the sense of we want to see justice and fairness. And we're also aware of the fact that if we do the wrong stuff, we're going to be judged and be punished too, in some respect. So it helps toe the line, so to speak. It's like, okay, yes, I want to see justice for those people that are doing those bad things, but I also better make sure I'm not doing those bad things, or I'm going to get my fair share of punishment. And so I do think that that's important. And I do think it helps keep people intellectually honest and on the right path, right? So this goes back to the whole thing with Judaism. They have that nice path and structure in place that's very defined of what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to live a good life. And then you got the Christian side, which is always kind of pushing the boundary a little bit, kind of like we're going to do some things and maybe we shouldn't do, and we'll ask for forgiveness. And if we're sincere and ask for forgiveness, God will forgive us and we'll be saved. But if we're not sincere, God can tell the difference and we're screwed. so it's kind of like you got those two things, those two yin and yangs going on. You got, it's kind of like the crayons. There's some kids that color in the lines, and then there's some kids that start coloring outside the lines and kind of go off in a different direction. And so that's the way I think about Christianity and Judaism. It's like Judaism is like we have a lot of the same core messages and beliefs of how we should live a good life in this world and how we should treat other people. But Jewish people are like, got to color in those lines. And then, Christians are like, I like those lines and I don't mind doing that, but I'm going to kind of veer off over here and see what the heck's over here. And I think it's a healthy balance to kind of try to do both. Because if you look at progress in this world, every discipline, every breakthrough that we've had as a species on Earth, there's somebody who's I guess you can say a rule breaker or two, where they kind of break outside of what is convention and they kind of, blaze a new path forward and so forth. So let me see here. Proverbs 8, common sense and success belong to me. Insight and strength are mine. Because of me, kings reign and rulers make just decrees. Rulers lead with my help and nobles make righteous judgments. I love all who love me. Those who search will surely find me. I have riches and honor, as well as enduring wealth and justice. My gifts are better than gold, even the purest gold. My wages better than sterling silver. I walk in righteousness and paths of justice. Those who love me inherit wealth. I will fill their treasures. The Lord formed me from the beginning, before he created anything else. I was appointed in ages past, at the very first, before the earth began. I was born before the oceans were created, before the springs bubbled forth their waters, before the mountains were formed, before the hills I was born, before he made the earth and fields, and the first handfuls of soil. And so, this is pretty cool. And one of the things that I kind of like about this passage is this part where he says, common sense and success belong to me is the first sentence, but where he basically says, those who love me inherit wealth. I will fill their treasures. So, we talk. I think I've hit on this concept of wealth before. I know I've talked about it with my son. And I said, what's the difference between money and wealth? And money is a store of value for your work. So you did something in the physical world, and if you did something that created enough value for enough people, if you did it in a pure form, you didn't steal it, but you did this with money. You created money for doing something and making other people better off. You get compensated for it. And then if you had the good fortune of being with various companies or various professions where you can magnify your skill set and scale it. That's why I like to say. I tell my son all the time. It's important that you find professions where you can scale your skill set. Because, the more you can scale your skill set, the more you can earn over time. If you can replicate, it's like replicating code, so to speak, good things that you can do. If you can magnify how good that goodness can do, you can have a much more meaningful impact. And so, when I think about this whole concept, that magnification process of work, which is finite with money, wealth is infinite. It becomes infinite. I will fill their treasures. So true wealth is knowledge and wisdom, because if you have knowledge and wisdom, and you can share true knowledge and wisdom, or true, I guess, the truths, to as many people as possible, and those people can take those truths and share them elsewhere. That's a really big secret of life, is because people will know if it's a truth, and if it truly, if it makes them better, and makes people around them better. And I think we are very sensitive, whether we realize it or not. And I think most of us can do this. We're very receptive, so we can hear probably on a different frequency, kind of like we can, when someone's speaking their harmonics, it's a voice that's traveling. But I do think there's stuff going on that we don't fully comprehend. I think our brain comprehends it. We don't know how to explain it. Like, we just kind of go with it. But that, that frequency or that tone or that the way things modulate, when it hits our ears, our body, our spirit, we can absorb the sound and energy into our being. You got to remember, this is a really interesting thing with physics, right? Which is super cool. If you took all the space out of every single cell, like, when you look at, if you look at all the protons and neutrons, right? You got the proton, you have protons, neutrons, and then you have electrons, right? And that's you guys remember this from chemistry, right? Like the little balls, and they're kind of connected, and you got the little electrons kind of holding the bonds together, and the tighter the bond, and the more packed it is, it turns into a solid. And if they're kind of bouncing around, they're more fluid. It might be like air, or if they're kind of loose bonds next to each other, it's kind of like a liquid. So, anyways, if you think of those, I'm kind of telling you the story, because our bodies are probably, 60, 70, 80% water, somewhere in there. I think it's 60, 70% just water. So we're just H2O. So our bodies are literally like 70% of our body is just water. But if you took all of the space, all of the empty space in every single cell, in every human being, you got rid of it all the empty space, and you just had protons and neutrons all collapse onto each other, every human being in this world would fit into the size of a sugar cube. I just find that so fascinating, that every single human being, all 7 billion humans, I don't think there's 7 billion, by the way. I think we're probably closer to 5 billion. But all 5 billion humans on this planet, if you got rid of all of the space in each of our cells, it would collapse us all into the size of a sugar cube. It's not my idea, folks. I just read about this, but I find it absolutely fascinating, because when you do the math on this stuff, it's super cool. And so anyways, why am I telling you this sugar cube story? Because as I'm reading this Inherit Wealth, I will fill you with treasures, and I'm talking about language, and the Jews are really good with this, in explaining it. I haven't really seen it anywhere else. I think it's called what's that book called? There's a Jewish book that kind of goes over this. I think it's Kabbal. Maybe it's it's the Kabbal. Hold on, not the Kabbal with the C. Kabbal. Hold on. What the heck is it called? Kabbalah. Anybody know what I'm talking about here, with regards to language and the mathematical score of each letter? Kabbalah. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so the Kabbalah and once again, I've only started to look at this a little bit, as I am fascinated by the mathematics of language, and that's how I got to learn more about languages, like tying it to math. But anyways, with regards to that harmonic of each letter, the mathematical score of each letter and each word, if you think about this fact that we're just a bunch of empty space, so when these frequencies or vibrations travel through space and time, some of them, like this computer, right now I'm on a wireless connection, so it's traveling through the airwaves. So here you are on the other side of this, and we're just looking at each other in 2 dimensions on this screen. Maybe in the future it'll be 3 dimensions in the hologram. But what ends up happening is those frequencies flow through different devices, like so the sound coming through this computer onto your side of how you're listening to it, and it is it hits with different effects on different people, right? Some people it doesn't resonate so well, right? Like resonance is just a different series of frequencies, but for some people it does, and that frequency that it hits you with, I think that different times in our life, different experiences that we have, I guess when you could say when people fall in love, I do think it's not just a chemical reaction in our brain that takes place. I do think some of it is harmonics in the way our energy flows through that same space, and when we're next to each other, so to speak, it's kind of like the way that energy field kind of vibrates and so forth. And whether or not it's a good bond, it's not just one that's intellectual, as people say. It's literally a physical bond, and then once that physical bond takes place, once again, this is that fractal geometry I keep talking about. You get 2 people, they connect, they have an energetic bond, like a mental bond. So maybe the 2 nucleuses are kind of like, wow, this is really interesting. And then the electrons are kind of going, and then the electrons are like, I kind of like this. Let me see if I want to stick together and bond. And then it turns into a solid. And next thing you know, you have a baby. So anyways, I think it's pretty fascinating that all these different human experiences that we see on this macro level, when you kind of distill it down into a micro level of how the universe is organized, all these same types of principles seem to flow through the system. And it's just beautiful to kind of observe it when you kind of slow down and look at it. Dr. Feynman, as I was talking to a gentleman yesterday, and I told you he reached out about one of my posts, and I got to talk to him. I'm going to give him a call tomorrow. I just kind of ran out of time today. But Roger, if you're listening, I'm definitely trying to give you a call tomorrow, Saturday at the absolute latest. But, when we were kind of talking about, some of the stuff that he's been working on over the years in the development of microprocessors, and, how a lot of it is just really organizing workflow and processes and systems. And, I've never tried to design a processor by any means, but I can tell you that I would love it. I would love to sit down and believe it or not, there's somebody out there, and I just happened to find this. I think there's somebody took my name, and they're working on something called the Python processor, which is I think it's a Python processor. And I'm laughing because I don't know why I decided to look this up. If there was a processor called Python, and sure enough, I think I gotta find it. But somebody decided to use my name to kind of create a Python processor, which is a new type of processor where I think you can design your processors for what your needs are in computers. I don't know how far how far along they are with this process, but it's pretty cool that somebody's working on creating on-demand type of things, because I do believe the future that we're moving into, especially with these advancements in technology and computing power. And one of the things that I'm focusing on professionally, obviously I'm involved in the financial markets, and I have a lot of ideas for how to transform the industry that I've been working on for well over a decade, probably 2 decades now. But they haven't been ready. I've been literally just a lot of groundwork and prepping time while I've been working. But I think some of those concepts of developing these systems are going to spill over into augmented intelligence versus artificial intelligence. And part of that augmented intelligence experience is allowing people and figuring out ways to have people create the tools to have their own algorithms for how they want to experience the world by taking control of the algorithms for how they interact in the world. And so we need to step up our mathematics, our understanding of mathematics and systems, for STEM, for kids. And I do think that education should be perpetual, personally. I think that everybody who has time, even if it's only 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week, you should learn a new subject, find something. It doesn't matter if it's art history, world history, writing, reading. You can probably take classes on how to read better. Just do something, 2-3 hours a week. I told you, we all have 113 hours of free time a week. If you sleep 8 hours a day, we have plenty of time, folks. We got almost 3 work weeks. It's all on how we organize that time. And if we organize that time to be like, I'm going to spend 10, 20, 30% of my time making myself better. I'm going to do 33% of my time or more doing work. And then I'm going to do a third enjoying my life and doing what I want to do. Now, it just so happens I happen to be in the 65, 70% time I'm just working. So I don't have the luxury right now of spending additional time to learn the way I would normally do it because of all these things that I've agreed to kind of work on. But I could tell you, once I kind of resolve some of those things, my energy will go from, okay, I'm working 40% of my time, and then I'm not working on these other projects. So I'm going to go back to an extra 10, 20% of my time. I'm just learning things. And that's the way, that's what brings me joy. So it's kind of weird because it's self-development, but it also brings me great joy. So the two overlap for me. And so the more you can kind of look through your life and kind of process map it out, you'll keep it interesting. And I think you make it fun and you keep yourself motivated to just keep plowing ahead forward and creating the life that you want. So anyways, does anybody have any questions? Because I'm more than happy to answer some questions. And, I apologize if I don't always get to read all these things. And sometimes I just kind of keep yapping. But what about kid time? What do you mean? My time with my children? Well, that's the time that I have for myself. That's incredibly enjoyable for me. So I said, if you do a third self-development, a third work, and a third what you love doing, the kids kind of fall into a little bit of both. The learning time where I like to teach them things, and then a third, they fall into that little category, and they fall into the category of things I love doing. How do I get on that list of people to call? You can email me at bobbypiton@gmail.com. So let's see here. Seeking Allah, finding Jesus had a good example. 3-in-1 nature. Okay. When you're severely dyslexic, how I had love. Okay, trying. If you're dyslexic, is there any programs or computer programs that could flip things to the frequency of how you're dyslexic? I don't know if that if that occurs, but that's something that you should maybe try to look into. Is if you're dyslexic, you're flipping letters, right? So I would imagine there might be programs that could, maybe you could, that would be a pretty cool software program. If you spoke, I don't know, how would that work? Because your mind is changing the letters when you see them. So then the question is, you don't hear things that way. See, I don't know enough about dyslexia. I just know, the one thing I do know is that you see letters, they kind of move out of order. So if somebody were to design a machine learning program where if someone who's dyslexic, let's just say you took 1,000 people that are dyslexic and you typed in all their information and they wrote the same, they copied, I don't know, 2 paragraphs out of a book and they typed it all up. And then, all this, there's randomness on the letters and they're flipping letters and so forth. And then machine learning would say, okay, this person falls into this distribution of how their dyslexia impacts this letters pattern. And so the software is going to kind of correct for that. And it's going to kind of create an alternative puzzle and just like flip the letters out and spout something out. I sent you an email. Okay, I'll take a look. I got to get caught up on my emails. They have some apps for Dyslexia Quest. So that's good to hear that they have that. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, Maria. Machine learning will help solve a lot of these problems that we face. There's a woman that I met who reached out to me from Massachusetts, who's working on machine learning solutions for healthcare. It's pretty interesting. I'm getting contacted by so many interesting people. I sometimes wish I was like one of these phantom voters where they cause a gremlin. They make me like 4 or 5 of me. I wish I had 4 or 5 of me to go see how all these things. I had more time to kind of work on all of them. But believe it or not, as much as my mind goes in all these different directions, I have the ability to stay extremely focused on whatever I have in front of me and stay focused. And I'll listen and I'll think about it and I'll say I may want to get to it, but I don't get off a point on what I need to do first. Kabbalah is something that order study development. Yeah. Like I said, I've never studied the Kabbalah. I just kind of heard about some things here and there. Earlier you said you were going to go back to the topic of love. Okay, so with regards to the topic of love, the highest order in Christianity is love. And so what I said, the meaning of life, it's pretty interesting because the whole baseline of how Christianity is structured is love is the top of the triangle, right? Love is patient, love is blind, love is never judges, and so forth. And so that's how it's related. It's related to the gospel. Intentional sleep deprivation gives you. Yeah, you don't want to be sleep deprived all running. So that's what I was saying with regards to love. It's tied into how we are. How our religion kind of stresses what we should be doing and how we order our life. The lessons of Christianity are structured, are structured in a way to increase the likelihood or probability of experiencing love. That's what I would say. 3 in 1, beginning, middle, and end, Alpha, Omega, Christ, death, defeating the death, resurrection, the true central. That's awesome. Shiva, that you're a mathematician that sees the intersection of math and religion. That's great because I tend to see math in like every field. I think it just shows up everywhere. I think a lot of fields just all intersect in our brains. We just need to kind of look for it a little more, and we'll see it everywhere. Storm down here. Let me see. So anyways, I think that's it, folks. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna probably go to bed here in a few minutes because I'm definitely getting a little tired. I got up early today. I get up early a lot of days, but like today I kind of got up, and then it's one of those things. You ever get up and then you're like, oh, I should get up. I can't sleep, and then you get up and you're up for 2-3 hours, and you're like, I wish I got an extra half hour of sleep or something. That seems like one of those days today, but because I kind of keep going. So, okay. Well, listen, everybody, thank you so much for chiming in. I just want to say God bless you. God bless your family and friends. May God continue to bless the greatest nation in the history of the world. And may peace be with you. And if you don't have peace, I do believe if you put God first, peace will most definitely find you. And I hope it finds our whole country again. I do think we're going in that direction. So thanks again. And am I going to do a Saturday vigil? I won't be able to make 9:30 on Saturday, folks. I'm going to be by my sister's for celebrating Easter on Saturday. So what I'm going to need to do is probably set up over there. I'll try to do 8:30. Let me see. You know what I need to do is if you guys like, do me a favor, everybody who's still on here, and I know I gotta figure out how to communicate better in this app. But if you're in this class with, like sitting and kind of chiming in each night for the greatest book ever written, if you can send me an email and just say Bible study, so I'll try to create an email list. So if for some reason, I have to move the time slightly because I'm going to go all 365 days, folks. And maybe I could try to figure out, like, if I need to move the time, and instead of at 8:30, on a Saturday, we try to move it to, like, I don't know, 2 in the afternoon or 3, just kind of seeing if I try to come up with a quick little survey, maybe on Twitter or something, where I know people are going to respond. I know who you are because I email you and I find out what's going on, that we can do a quick survey, and it's like, oh, everybody's available at this time. Yeah, you could just, in the subject line, just say Bible study. So that would be wonderful, because then, for some reason, I don't think this is going to happen, that YouTube shuts me down. I am on I am on Rumble, but they don't have live streaming there. But if you just email me at bobbypiton at Gmail, and then just do Bible study, that would be wonderful. And then I'll have everybody's email, that if for some reason they shut me down, I can get a hold of everybody and so forth. Let's use the greatest book. Yeah, we needed to do the greatest book ever written to help solve the mess that we're in. So anyways, that'll be wonderful. And so you guys have a wonderful evening, and please email me. It's just I have everybody's information, and I should probably just do that, so that we just can kind of keep track of everybody. And then, it'd be wonderful. So I'm not going off of YouTube. I'm saying if I get banned. I don't think they're going to ban me, but I just, I need to be prepared. They've been kind of taking me down here and there. So on different platforms, I just kind of keep springing back up like one of those little stuffed animals that come up with the little thing to hit. So anyways, have a wonderful evening, everybody. God bless you all. Have a wonderful night, and I will see you soon. Thanks again. God bless.